The wind cut through the Arden forest like a blade, rustling the bare branches above as snow began to fall in thick, silent layers. It was December 19th, 1944, the second day of what would become the infamous Battle of the Bulge. Among the muffled chaos of distant artillery and radio silence, Sergeant William Bill Hanley knelt beside his partner, a German shepherd named Rex. Bill's gloved hand hovered over the dog's fur for warmth, but his mind was fixed on the unthinkable. Over 200 American soldiers from the 106th Infantry had gone missing after German panzer divisions sliced through the Allied lines. Command had given up hope, but Bill hadn't. He wasn't a tracker by trade. Before the war, Bill had been a Pennsylvania farm boy and Rex, the runt of a police dog litter. But after Pearl Harbor, everything changed. They enlisted together, trained together, and survived North Africa and Normandy side by side. Now, Rex wasn't just a dog. He was Bill's only family, and he was the only chance these lost men had. The forest ahead was dense and unfamiliar, wrapped in a fog of smoke, ice, and death. Bill looked into Rex's eyes. "Track, boy," he whispered, and the dog moved. They entered the woods alone, away from the shattered convoy that lay burning behind them. The cold was suffocating. Trees stood like monuments to forgotten lives. Broken helmets, shredded uniforms, a bloodied canteen half buried in snow. Each relic was a story unfinished. Bill marked their coordinates in a soaked notebook, whispering prayers to no one. He kept his M1 Garand ready, but it wasn't the enemy he feared most. It was silence, the kind of silence that swallowed entire platoons. Hours passed. Rex sniffed, paused, then darted to the left. His body language changed. Ears alert, tail rigid. Bill followed his breath shallow. Then, in a clearing, they found the first sign. Torn fabric clinging to bark. A boot print frozen mid-stride. A spent flare canister. Someone had been here. Maybe just minutes before. Bill's heart pounded. Not from fear, but hope. He knelt and placed his hand over the tracks. "They're alive," he murmured. The trail twisted deeper into the wilderness. Rex stopped suddenly, growling low. Bill raised his rifle. "AI scanning." A faint cry pierced the silence. Not a shout, but a whimper. Human. Weak. Bill rushed forward and nearly tripped over the body of a soldier, half buried under branches, pale and shaking. "Medic," the man gasped. Bill checked for wounds. Frostbite, exhaustion, a head wound. He looked up. "How many of you?" The soldier blinked. "Too many," scattered. Then he passed out. Bill radioed back, voice cracking. "I found one. They're not gone. They're out here. All of them." Static replied. He looked at Rex, who was already alert again, ready to mob. Bill knew this was just the beginning. One man found. Hundreds more to go. And the enemy closing in, fast. But as long as Rex could track, and Bill could walk, they weren't done. The forest had a pulse now. After finding the first soldier, Private James Talbot, the silence Bill once feared had shifted into a different kind of tension. Every snapped twig or gust of wind carried weight. He had radioed in Talbot's location, marked it with a strip of red cloth tied to a pine, and tucked the unconscious man beneath a makeshift shelter of branches and his own coat. "We'll come back," he whispered, though the cold didn't wait for promises. Rex nudged forward impatiently, sniffing the air with a sharp urgency that told Bill one thing. The trail was in T. Cold yet, they pressed on, deeper into the thicket. German voices echoed faintly in the distance, patrols sweeping the woods. The 106th had been caught off guard in the opening days of the Ardennes offensive, and the Wehrmacht now hunted survivors like prey. Bill moved carefully, avoiding open spaces, and stepping where Rex stepped. It was the dog's ears, not his rifle, that would keep them alive. The snow muffled footsteps, but Rex's nose sliced through miles of cold and fear. Then the dog froze, ears twitching. A low growl. Bill dropped to his stomach, scanning the trees. Across a narrow ridge, barely visible beneath branches, 3 American soldiers crouched together, rifles limp in their hands. Their uniforms were torn, one of them shoeless, their faces gaunt and blackened by frost. They didn't move when Bill called out softly. Trauma had robbed them of language. It wasn't until Rex stepped into the clearing, tail wagging, ears down, that something changed. One of the men wept. "We thought you were dead," the soldier whispered, voice cracking. "We all thought we were dead." Bill moved fast. He gave them chocolate, checked for injuries, then marked their location like before. The ridge had become a kind of graveyard for scattered soldiers, not by death, but by fear and confusion. None of them knew how many others were still out there. One mentioned a medic who ran toward the west, another remembered a corporal dragging a wounded comrade north. It was a web of fractured memories, and Bill was the only one trying to thread them back together. Rex, meanwhile, had already picked up another scent. As they moved again, a storm began to roll in. The sky turned gray and thick with snow. Visibility dropped, and sound disappeared under layers of ice. Bill wrapped his scarf tighter and reached out to keep Rex close. The wind howled like a siren, part warning, part mourning. The cold pressed into their bones, and time blurred, but the trail was still there. Faint as it was, they found more signs: a bloody bandage, a helmet with a bullet hole, initials carved into bark. Every object whispered a name, a story, a direction. By dusk, they had found 7 men. Alive, barely. Bill didn't stop. He couldn't. He radioed again. No answer. Batteries freezing. Rex collapsed briefly from exhaustion, and Bill wrapped the dog in his own coat. "You're not quitting," he said gently. The sun disappeared behind the trees, and darkness fell like a curtain. But the shepherd rose again, nose to the ground, ready to keep going. Night in the Ardennes wasn't just darkness, it was complete erasure. The forest swallowed light, sound, and even hope. As Bill and Rex pushed forward, every breath became a struggle. Snow drifted endlessly, and their boots crunched against frozen earth with a rhythm that seemed far too loud. Bill had memorized the map, but it no longer mattered. The lines were irrelevant now. The mission wasn't strategic anymore, it was human. With each life they found, the war felt less like orders and more like a promise. No one gets left behind. Rex stopped again, his ears perked toward a fallen tree. Bill followed the dog's gaze and approached carefully. Rifle low. Behind the trunk, half buried in snow, lay a young soldier barely out of his teens. He had a tourniquet around his leg and a broken radio clutched in one hand. His eyes fluttered open, cloudy with fever. "You're real?" he asked, voice raw and distant. Bill nodded and knelt beside him. "Sergeant Hanley, you're safe now." The boy managed a weak smile. "I heard barking, thought it was a dream." Bill glanced at Rex, who stood watch like a statue. After warming the soldier's hands, Bill gave him water and half a chocolate ration. The kid privet, Alan Dorsey, couldn't walk. His leg was badly infected, and the cold had turned his toes blue. Bill marked his location again and radioed the coordinates, but the line crackled uselessly. The battery was failing. He knew time was running out, not just for the wounded, but for him and Rex too. Supplies were low, and they hadn't eaten since dawn. Still, the dog pushed forward, refusing rest. Bill whispered, "You keep going. I keep going." Each soldier they found told fragments of the same nightmare. German tanks had come fast, radius failed, orders got lost, and panic took over. Some had fled. Others stayed to fight and were overrun. Some simply wandered into the forest, thinking help would come. But the forest offered only confusion. Rex was now tracking more than just scent. He was following fear, desperation, and blood. In one hollow, they discovered a group of 4 soldiers huddled around a frozen fire pit, their hands blackened by frostbite. They didn't speak. They just stared as Rex approached. Taylor, head forward. Bill offered what little he had left. The cold began to attack Bill's body in new way-stiff joints. Slow fingers, shallow breath. Still, he moved. The weight of responsibility was heavier than frostbite. Every pair of eyes that looked up at him, every hand that reached out, every whisper of "I thought we were forgotten," they kept him upright. He had counted 15 men rescued so far. Maybe more. The numbers blurred, but the faces never did. He could still remember the first one clearly. Talbot, trembling under branches. As night deepened, Rex suddenly stopped and whimpered. Bill followed and saw a cluster of bloody footprints frozen in place. Then, nothing. A dead end. The trail vanished. Bill stood in the middle of the forest, the wind howling through the trees like a warning. He looked around, heart pounding. They were close to something. Or someone. But where? And how much time was left? Bill crouched over the frozen trail, staring at the sudden stop in the footprints. The bloody impressions ended beneath a low-hanging branch, as if the soldiers had vanished into the earth. Rex circled the area, sniffing the snow with growing agitation. The air had changed heavier now, charged with something unseen. Bill stood slowly, eyes scanning the trees. Then he noticed it. A smear of crimson on a nearby tree trunk, high above the ground. Someone had been dragged. Recently he felt a chill unrelated to the cold. The forest whispered again. A distant snap of a branch. Bill raised his rifle instinctively, finger frozen on the trigger. Rex let out a low growl, body stiff, ears locked on a thicket just ahead. Then movement. Not enemy soldiers. A man stumbled out, arms raised weakly, uniform shredded, face covered in mud and dried blood. "Don't shoot," he rasped. "They're still alive. Back there." Bill rushed forward and caught him before he fell. "Who? Where?" The soldier's lips trembled. "Captured. Taken. They re-oosing. Tim." As bait, Bill's stomach turned. This wasn't just about survival. Anymore, it was a trap. A German patrol had taken prisoners and left a bloody trail to lure rescuers. He knew this tactic. They had used it in Italy to... Rex barked sharply, pulling toward the left. Bill hesitated. Going after them would mean walking into unknown danger, possibly surrounded. But turning back meant leaving Americans in enemy hands. He looked at the soldier, who had passed out from blood loss, and made a decision. We go. Navigating the terrain became harder with each step. Ice covered the forest floor, and visibility dropped as snow thickened. Rex led with calculated caution, pausing at every scent change. Bill's pulse thudded in his ears. He thought about his platoon, long since scattered. He thought about the letter in his chest pocket, one he'd never sent to his mother, telling her he was okay. He wasn't. But if this was the last thing he did, it would matter. That was enough. The silence broke again, a voice, muffled, pleading. American. Bill dropped to his stomach and crawled forward. Through the branches, he saw them 5 soldiers tied to a tree line, guarded by 3 German troops. One of the prisoners had a bandaged face. Another was missing boots. They were barely conscious. Bill scanned the area. Too far to take all 3 enemies at once. Too risky to wait for backup. He looked at Rex. "Distract," he whispered. The dog's ears twitched. Then he was gone, vanishing into the snow like a ghost. Seconds later, chaos erupted. Rex lunged from the right, barking furiously. The German guards turned in confusion just long enough. Bill fired twice. One soldier dropped, another fled into the trees. The third raised his weapon but fell before he could fire. The prisoners slumped in disbelief. "You're American," one gasped. Bill nodded, breath heavy. "Let's get you out of here." Rex returned moments later, limping but alive. Blood stained his side, not his own. Bill knelt and embraced the dog. "Good boy." Around them, the forest was still again, but Bill knew it was temporary. The enemy now knew someone was hunting them, and the clock was ticking faster than ever. The forest had grown quieter, but it wasn't peace. It was the kind of quiet that settles just before something breaks. Bill had moved the rescued prisoners to a hollow beneath a rocky outcrop, shielding them from the wind with pine branches and snow-packed walls. There were now over 20 men alive because of Rex and him. 20. Out of 200, Bill felt that number like a stone in his chest. He should have felt victory bat. Instead, he only felt the weight of the missing. Rex lay curled beside one of the wounded, his breathing shallow, his fur still streaked with blood. Bill had cleaned the wound, just a graze across the ribs, but the exhaustion in the dog's eyes worried him. They needed rest, food, reinforcements, but above all, they needed Taiman. Time was what they didn't have. The German patrols were moving faster now, smarter, as if they knew Bill's path. That terrified him more than the gunfire. The enemy wasn't just chasing ghosts in the woods. They were listening. The static-filled radio finally caught a signal again. A few broken words. Command, confirm coordinates, ... enemy aware. Extraction delayed. Then silence. Bill cursed under his breath. No backup. No evac. Not yet. And with the snowstorm worsening, the chances of air support or ground rescue in the next 48 hours were slim. He looked out over the white terrain, then back at the shivering men in the shelter. Some had started calling him Shepherd. A nod to Rex, maybe, or to Bill himself, leading a flock through hell. Either way, he couldn't stop now. He gave the men instructions. Stay low, stay warm, and don't light fires. Then he and Rex moved out again, deeper into the trees. They had to keep moving. Every second wasted was a soldier's life slipping away in the snow. Rex hesitated more now, his steps slower, but his nose still worked. He sniffed, paused, moved left. Bilford. They passed broken branches, blood-soaked cloth caught on thorns, shattered dog tags half buried in the ice, each marker a whisper, keep going. Then came a sound Bill hadn't heard in Daizan engine. Low, slow. Not American. He dropped instantly, pulling Rex down. Through the trees, the vague outline of a German half-track moved silently. Its lights off, tires crunching snow in measured rhythm. Inside, silhouette soldiers, with radios, listening, recording, searching. Bill's heart thudded. The enemy was tracking movement, chatter, maybe even their signals. He held his breath as the vehicle rolled past, barely 20 feet away. One wrong move, and it would have been over. When the noise faded, Bill exhaled. Rex remained frozen, trained and disciplined. Bill whispered, "They're not hunting by sight anymore. They're hunting by sound." He realized then, every radio call he'd made, every signal sent, might have been the rescue was compromised. The forest wasn't just dangerous, was aware. And now, more than ever, stealth wasn't just survival. It was the only way they'd make it out alive. By morning, the forest had transformed into a white abyss. The storm had buried most of the tracks, wiped out the fragile trail of markers Bill had left, and coated the trees in a shimmering sheet of ice. What was once a map in his head had become a maze. Even Rex seemed disoriented at times, his paws sinking deep into fresh snow as he struggled to pick up new scents. Bill knew they were running out of time and the elements weren't the only thing closing in. The German patrols were moving with sharper precision, circling in patterns too tight to be coincidence. Back at the outcrop shelter, the rescued soldiers were deteriorating. Frostbite had claimed fingers, wounds festered without proper treatment, and worst of all, morale had begun to crack. One man, a corporal from Ohio, had begged Bill not to leave again. "You'll vanish like the rest," he muttered. Bill didn't respond. He simply laid another blanket over the man's shaking body and whispered, "Hold on, just a little longer." In truth, he didn't know how much longer he could keep this up. Rex had begun to limp more visibly. They both needed rest, but rest was a luxury they couldn't afford. Then, a glimmer of something. A signal, weak, crackling through the half-dead radio. It wasn't commanded, was another unit. Faint, but clear enough to make out. 9th... medical EVAC... Route compromised. Flare at 0900. Bill snapped to attention. A medic unit was attempting an approach, but they needed a signal to lock on, and any visible flare could also draw a German fire. A double-edged blade. Still, it was a shot. Bill checked his gear. He had one flare left. A red one. High visibility. One chance. He returned to the shelter and briefed the men. At 0900, we light it. No sound. No movement. Just wait. Some nodded. Others looked away. They were losing faith. But Bill didn't need them to believe in him. Just to believe they weren't alone. As the minute approached, he climbed the nearby ridge, Rex at his side, despite the limp. Wind lashed across his face. He pulled out the flare, held it above his head, and ignited it. A streak of red fire soared into the sky, painting the white world crimson for a moment. Then silence. Waiting. For 10 minutes, nothing. Then engines. Faint but real. American. A medical unit, 2 jeeps, flanked by armed guards, crawled into view like a vision. The soldiers in the shelter erupted in stunned relief, but kept quiet. They helped the wounded aboard, moved fast, and vanished as quickly as they came. It wasn't salvation. Not yet. But it was a victory. 23 soldiers now out of the woods, but more were still missing, and Bill knew the next part would be even harder. The enemy was watching, and now they knew someone was interfering. Rex stood beside him on the ridge, nose lifted to the wind. Snow swirled like smoke around them. Bill looked down at the dark path ahead. "They're waiting for us to stop," he said quietly. "We won't." And once again, they moved forward into the trees, toward the silence, toward the lost. The storm finally broke by the next afternoon, leaving behind a forest cloaked in eerie silence. Sunlight pierced through the branches in thin, golden lines, casting long shadows that twisted and moved with the wind. Bill and Rex trudged onward, their pace slower now, not from hesitation but exhaustion. The rescue of 23 men had given them a sliver of momentum, but also painted a target on their backs. The German patrols had doubled since the flare was launched. Now, the forest didn't feel abandoned. It felt watched. They passed through a narrow ravine where icicles hung like daggers, and the snow reached Bill's knees. Rex paused often, sniffing in tight circles before choosing the next direction. Bill trusted the dog more than any compass. Somewhere in the trees beyond this ravine, survivors were waiting. He could feel it. But so could the enemy. Every so often, Bill spotted subtle signs: cigarette ash, broken branches, a spent cartridge casing. The Germans were close, maybe only hours behind, or worse, just ahead, waiting for them to make the wrong move. As they climbed out of the ravine, Bill spotted something unusual: a torn sleeve tied to a branch, flapping in the wind. It was a signal, no doubt, American signal, improvised but intentional. Bill approached cautiously, hand on his rifle, scanning the tree line. Then he heard it. Movement, deliberate but muffled. He dropped to one knee. Rex tensed. From the underbrush, a voice whispered, "Don't shoot." A man emerged, wearing a medic's band emblazoned with dried blood and dirt. His face was gaunt, beard thick, eyes alert. "Hanley," he asked. They said, "You were still out here." The medic, Sergeant Leo Grabus, had been missing for 6 days. He wasn't alone. 3 more soldiers crawled out from beneath a camouflaged net hidden in the snow. All were malnourished, bruised, and armed with little more than knives and a single rifle with 2 rounds left. They had evaded capture by staying completely still, moving only at night, surviving on melted snow and dried jerky. Leo had seen the flare the day before, but feared it was a trap. "We stayed hidden," he explained, "but they're sweeping again tonight. Dogs, guns. You won't get a second chance." Bill's relief was cut short by the urgency in Leo's voice. This area would be crawling with enemy units by sundown. They needed extraction fast. But with no flares, no working radio, and too many wounded to move quickly, They were trapped. Bill considered splitting the group again, leaving some behind, while he went for help, but the thought of abandoning even one man didn't sit right. Not after coming this far. Rex paced in slow circles, sensing the tension. He stopped and stared northeast. Ears perked. Another scent. Bill looked in that direction, squinting through the trees. He saw nothing. Just endless white. But Rex didn't move. Here's. Bill stepped forward, rifle ready, and whispered, "What do you see, boy?" The forest didn't answer. Not yet. But Bill knew what this meant. They weren't alone anymore. Someone or something was watching, and the next move could change everything. The trees stood still, but the tension in the air trembled like a wire pulled too tight. Rex remained frozen, eyes locked on a fixed point ahead, body taut like a drawn bow. Bill followed his gaze, but saw nothing, just the layered shadows of pine trunks and the soft shimmer of untouched snow. Still, he trusted Rex's instincts. He gave a silent hand signal to the medic and the other soldiers to stay low. In the forest stillness was survival. Every careless breath could echo like thunder. Suddenly, a faint metallic clink echoed in the distance. Not natural, not accidental. Boots on rock. Bill dropped flat to the ground and motioned for Rex to do the same. Moments later, the first shapes emerged. 3 German scouts, rifles slung low, walking with the confidence of men who believed they were alone. Bill's mind raced. They were too close to risk a shot without alerting more nearby. He needed a diversion, something quiet but effective. Then he reached for a smooth stone in the snow and tossed it into a thicket behind the patrol. The soft crash startled the Germans, who turned instinctively, raising their rifles. In that moment of distraction, Bill and Rex retreated silently, crawling backward down a slope, heart pounding in rhythm with the crunch of his own breath. When they reached cover, Leo met him with wide eyes. "They're everywhere," he whispered. "If we're going to move, it has to be now, or not at all." Bill agreed. The group was too exposed, and the shelter wouldn't hold through another sweep. There was only one option left: take the northern trail through the ice basin. It was longer, but less patrolled, and far more dangerous. The basin had once been a frozen lake. Now it was a jagged field of broken ice sheets and deep snowdrifts that could swallow a man whole. But if they could cross it, they'd be within reach of a known Allied supply drop zone, maybe even radio range. Bill briefed the men quickly and helped 2 of the weakest to their feet. The forest was closing in behind them. They had to move now. Rex led the way, limping slightly, nose to the wind. The sun had begun to set again, painting the snow in tones of fire and ash. They reached the edge of the basin just as a distant engine roared to life. More German vehicles. But they were behind. For now. Bill took a step onto the frozen crust of the basin, testing it with his weight. It held. One by one, the others followed. For a brief moment, it was silent again, just the sound of wind sweeping across the frozen lake. Then crack. A fissure split beneath one soldier's boot. He froze, eyes wide. Rex turned back and barked once. A warning, or a cry. Bill ran toward him. "Don't move," he hissed. But the crack widened. They were running out of solid ground and out of time. Behind them, the enemy was moving closer. And ahead, only ice, cold, and the fading trail of survival. Time shattered like the ice beneath their feet. The soldier caught in the fissure didn't scream. He just looked at Bill with eyes full of silent panic as the frozen sheet groaned beneath him. Bill lunged forward, sliding across the brittle surface, and reached for the man's hand. The soldier gripped him hard, knuckles white as the crack split further, hissing like a snake across the basin. Behind them, the others froze, too terrified to move, watching helplessly as Bill planted his body low, distributing weight, trying to pull the man from the death. Rex barked furiously, circling the edges of the fracture, ears flattened against his skull. Bill shouted through clenched teeth, "Don't fight it, just roll. Toward me." Together, they shifted inches at a time. Every movement felt like a gamble, every breath a countdown. Finally, With one last pull, the soldiers slid free of the crack just before the ice collapsed into a black, bottomless void. The sound echoed like thunder, a reminder that the forest, the snow, even the ice, was not on their side. They lay there for a moment. The soldier, Rex's heart's pounding in sync with the still rippling water below. They couldn't stop. Not now. Bill helped the man up and signaled for the group to keep moving, this time in a staggered formation, spreading their weight. The crossing took nearly 2 hours, every step a risk. But when they reached the far edge of the basin, something shifted. The tree line opened to a shallow ridge, and just beyond it, nestled in the hills, was a familiar sight, a Nayed airdrop marker, flapping weakly in the wind. It was tattered, nearly covered in snow, but unmistakably friendly. Bill allowed himself one deep breath. They were close. Leo found a signal flare buried beneath a ration box, marked with the red triangle of the Ninth Army. The flare was intact. Once it left, Bill looked around. No patrols, no movement. Stillness again. He turned to the others. "This is our last shot," he said. "Once we fire, we move fast. They'll see it, so will the enemy." No one objected. At this point, any movement forward was better than freezing in place. He lit the flare, and once again, the sky turned red. A desperate, defiant streak of fire cutting through the pale winter sky. But the response came faster than expected. Within minutes, radio static lit up, this time clearer. Unit identified. Coordinates locked, evac team en route. ETA. 20 minutes. Bill didn't smile, but his shoulders lowered slightly. 20 minutes. Just 20 more minutes to survive. That felt like eternity. He positioned the men in a circle, weapons ready, while Rex stood at the center, ears twitching in every direction. The wind carried the sounds of engines not allied, not yet. The Germans had seen the flare too. Bill turned toward the sound. Rifle raised. "Hold the line," he ordered. Snow began to fall again, softly. "They want to fight," he said, under his breath. "They'll find a shepherd who doesn't leave his flock." Rex growled low beside him. The final stand was coming, and they would face it together. The wind howled like a warning across the ridge, tearing through trees and rattling the nerves of every man waiting in the snow. Bill crouched low, his rifle trained on the narrow pass below. Rex stood beside him, chest heaving, every muscle in his body alert. The radio buzzed again. "Evac team 1 mile out. Hold position." But holding wasn't the problem. Surviving the next 5 minutes was. In the distance, movement, gray coats, long rifles, boots crunching snow, a German patrol. Not a scouting party this time, but a full squad. Maybe more. Bill counted at least 12. More shadows moved behind them. No time to fall back. No cover wide enough to hide everyone. This wasn't going to be a rescue, it was going to be a firefight. "Positions!" Bill barked. The remaining soldiers, half frozen and barely standing, raised what weapons they had. It wasn't enough. Bill looked down at Rex. The dog wasn't afraid. He never had been. Even now, with death charging toward them through the trees, Rex stood tall, loyal, unshaken. "Stay close," Bill whispered, hand resting on his neck. "Not today." The first shots cracked through the cold like a whip. Bill fired, and a German soldier dropped. Snow exploded around them as bullets slammed into the ridge. Men shouted, "Sum Escrit." Myth. Rex barked and lunged, not toward the enemy, but toward a soldier who had collapsed out of position, dragging him back behind cover. Chaos reigned, but still, they held. Each man fought not with strength, but desperation. Every second was earned with blood, grit, and frozen breath. Then, over the ridge, a new sound. Engines fast, low. American Jeep tires burst through the snow, machine guns blazing from mounted turrets. The evac team had arrived, spray and lead with surgical precision. German soldiers scattered like shadows in sunlight. The ridge shook with the sound of firepower. One of the medics jumped from the vehicle and ran toward Bill. "Are you Sergeant Hanley?" he shouted. Bill nodded, barely able to speak. The medic looked around, stunned. "How many did you save?" Bill didn't answer. He looked back at the group -30-7 now. 37 men alive because of him and Rex. The evac was fast, efficient. Soldiers lifted the wounded, covered the dead, and packed into the trucks. As Bill climbed aboard the last jeep, he turned to call for Rex, but the shepherd wasn't there. Panique surged. He jumped back out, heart pounding, eyes scanning the blood-stained snow. Then movement. Rex limped toward him, dragging something behind him. A wounded soldier. Another one Bill had missed. "You stupid, brave mutt," Bill whispered, dropping to his knees as Rex collapsed beside him. They pulled the man aboard. Then, finally, the jeep roared to life and drove. As the forest disappeared behind them, Bill held Rex in his arms. The dog's body trembled with exhaustion, but his eyes never left Bill's. No medals, no speeches, just the quiet knowledge that they had done something that mattered. In the vast silence of war, they had been the noise of hope, and somewhere, deep in that frozen hell, the last trail had ended with a shepherd and his dog who refused to leave anyone behind.